Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Joe and Joe Weather Show. I'm Joe Chaffee. Joe Rayo will join us as soon as Zoom, because they're having problems. Zoom is having some technical issues, and Joe's not able to log in. So he's going to, I guess, stand by and keep trying. And in the meantime, I'm going to go solo. And by the way, thanks everybody for uh, and cooperating with the fact that we are going to be on at 8:30 Eastern time today, tomorrow, and Wednesday, and then we're going to be off Thursday, Friday, and Saturday because I will be on the road. So no show Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, and uh, God willing, we will be back on for Sunday morning. The Joe and Joe Weather Show brought to you by Omni True Value Hardware, Long Island's capital of mulch. They have mulch, mulch, and more mulch with no chance of it running out. The shortages of all sorts of things. The one thing there isn't a shortage of is mulch because they make it there. And that means that their prices are lower than the big box stores. So head over there with your truck or get your landscaper over there with his truck to Omni True Value at 1226 North Wellwood Avenue in West Babylon, 631-756-1125. The website is omnitruevalue.com. Also brought to you by Wholesale Holiday Lighting by Giannini, your complete holiday lighting specialist, meeting all your decorating needs. Whether you want your home decorated or maybe you want to do this as a business, give them a call at 631-957-5106. They're at 162 Ocean Avenue in Lindenhurst on Long Island, also in Southwest Suffolk County. And their website is liholidaylighting.com. So, busy night tonight, severe weather-wise. We have a lot going on with respect to severe weather warnings in parts of West Texas, and it's also playing out in East Texas in the form of the potential for flash flooding. There've already been a number of flash flood warnings there. Uh, this is the counterweight to what's going on in the eastern part of the United States. There always has to be a counterweight. If you have a big ridge in one part of the country, you've got to have a deep trough in another part. And in this particular instance, the strong ridge is building in the east and the deep trough is out in the west. And it's far enough west, by the way, that it's impacting areas in West Texas with severe weather tonight. It is not going to be impacting areas to the east, say across Alabama and the southeastern part of the United States. We'll throw Mississippi in there too, because they're probably just going to be right on the edge of some weather, the western part of the state. But this is not going to be moving east. And in fact, when we look at the overall pattern with how that upper high is going to be behaving, it's actually going to be migrating westward. So this pretty much shuts down the tornado season, at least, or maybe the severe weather season, the peak of the severe weather season for places like Mississippi, Alabama, and Georgia, at least for the next 10 days or so. Certainly, that's the way it's shaping up. And while all that's going on, of course, you've got very warm weather that's going to be in the eastern part of the United States, particularly in the Mid-Atlantic and also into the Northeast. And one of the things that is going to go along with this is the fact that it's going to come with low humidity. There's not really going to be a rise in humidity levels here this week. Right through Friday, dew points are going to be in the reasonable 50s. So that's easy to take. If you've got temperatures climbing well up into the 80s and your dew points are sitting at 51 or 52, that actually is rather comfortable and rather dry. Because this time of year, when it gets hot, or certainly when it gets very warm, it usually comes with relatively low humidity. It's when we get deeper into later June and July that the humidity starts to get involved, because now instead of getting your air pretty much coming from the northwest, which is how this is working out, you're seeing your air coming up from the southwest, and that brings up the tropical humidity. So big hello to everybody tonight. Hope your weekend was great. And we'll get started here. We're going to go to the U.S. Satellite view. And you can see the big blowups going on with thunderstorms. Very impressive here. These thunderstorms that have been blowing up, they still haven't really reached their peak intensity. Uh, in parts of West Texas, and also seeing some blowups back up into southern Colorado. And also, if you look in southeast Texas and into southern Louisiana along the Gulf states, you're seeing blowups of thunderstorms that are producing heavy rain. Um, Mr. Ruben Fairchild, Mr. Rayo is not here because there is an issue with Zoom. Okay, so it's not that he doesn't want to be here, he or can't be here or is late being here. He is not able to log on. So you probably jumped on late and missed that little announcement at the beginning. I hope that meets with your approval. In the meantime, once again in the Northeast today, you're seeing these upper troughs. We've been dealing with this since Friday with these upper troughs coming down from the northwest and the instability clouds, the colder air aloft. And we saw that again this afternoon and evening in parts of New England. You see the little clusters there of some showers and one or two isolated thunderstorms moving southeast. And now, of course, that we're past sunset, all of that is weakening. The next trough, if you look up to the north, the next trough is actually moving more to the east than it is to the southeast. So that's going to actually pass much further east than the recent troughs. So that leaves us with the air coming in from the upper high that's going to be building in the eastern part of the United States. So our air is going to take a trip like this with a big upper high centered back in Tennessee, or eventually gets back into Tennessee. And this is dry air and it is hot air. And of course, the tropical air now is shooting up from to the north back into Texas, particularly into West Texas. So you got the severe weather back in this area with a deep upper low that is moving across the south, the west, and heading eastward, and the flow out of the Gulf of Mexico, bringing in that tropical moisture and playing out with the heavy rains that you're seeing back across Texas. Here's what we got with watches and warnings at the moment. I'll give this a quick refresh just to update it, and we are seeing that there are flash flood watches over a very large part of central and east Texas, across western and southern Louisiana. There are working flash flood warnings in a number of counties in southern Louisiana and in southeast Texas, in and around and just east of Houston. And then further west, we have two severe thunderstorm watches, and I believe two tornado watches that are in play. The Storm Prediction Center, which we'll go to right here. So far today, we've had 12 reports of tornadoes. Most of them have been the vast majority of them, I think, or maybe all of them, have been concentrated in West Texas. There are 12 reports of tornadoes and 7 reports of winds of 50 knots or higher, and no reports, 0 reports of winds 65 knots or higher, at least so far. This has also been a big hail producer. We've had 38 reports of hail and 11 reports of large hail, 2 or more inches in diameter. So far today, total reports of severe weather totaling 58. And of course, you also see the little red dots here in southern Louisiana. Those are the flash flood warnings. And the SPC is still, by the way, bringing out, they just brought out a new tornado watch just 5 minutes ago. The fact it's so new that the map is still has not updated yet. It's 8:41 Eastern time. If you're watching this later tonight on a replay, or if you're watching this tomorrow morning, remember that this is from 8:41 p.m. Eastern time on May 17th. So be sure to go to your local National Weather Service forecast office page for the latest regarding severe weather. And you can find that by going to weather.gov. And take a look at the radar here. I'll bring it up full screen and change it to a different background so it looks a bit better. And you can see it. Look at all these severe thunderstorm warnings. I think there were a total of 3 dozen severe thunderstorm or tornado warnings. I'm counting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 tornado warnings in play in West Texas. Most of them are, well, obviously, most of this weather is well west of Dallas Fort Worth, but it is impacting cities like Lubbock, Amarillo, Midland, and points north and west into northeastern New Mexico, and then on up into southern Colorado, south of Pueblo. We have a severe thunderstorm warning there. In Louisiana, it's either a special marine warning that's offshore, 2 working flash flood warnings that are up. I believe that, let's see if I can get this. I can't seem to get um, the warning to pop up. Let's try one more time. No, doesn't want to do it, but you get the idea. And to the north of there, seeing bands of rain and a few thunderstorms into southern and central Illinois, southern Indiana, back over into scattered around in parts of Missouri and also in through northern Mississippi and on into western Tennessee. In the northeast, as the map fills in, looks like there's 1 cell in southeastern Vermont that's left, a couple of cells in northern New Hampshire, also in northwestern Maine, seeing a few scattered cells there. And there's 1 little tiny cell here, what's left of it, in southwestern Rhode Island, that well past its peak intensity and weakening. Also, a couple little dots here, one near Bridgeport, and another one just near New York City. 2 widely scattered showers in northeastern Pennsylvania. Otherwise, as we work our way down the coast through Virginia, a little light shower activity there in western Virginia, and also in the Carolina Mountains, seeing a few showers there. And just to the northeast of me, and I know because I'm sitting in clouds, and I thought maybe I might I might see a shower here where I am in northeast Georgia, but it looks like it's just to the northeast of me. The rest of the state is quiet, and then going further south, it's pretty quiet down in Florida today. So there's your the busy weather, obviously, in West Texas. And back to SPC. They came out with a moderate risk, and they still have a moderate risk of severe weather in the area that's getting hit very hard now. We have one, two, 3 tornado watches up at the moment. Yeah, it's 3. So we have 3 tornado watches that are at work right now at 8:45 Eastern time. And we also, I believe, have 2 severe thunderstorm watches that are up. One well inland in South Texas in and around Del Rio. Another one in westernmost Oklahoma and on up into northeastern New Mexico and southeastern Colorado. So very, very busy night in the land of severe weather. As we go through the next couple of days, that's going to relax a little bit. We do have a marginal and slight risk of severe weather in Texas, in eastern Texas, northeastward into a small portion of southeastern Oklahoma. You can see the larger area of marginal risk surrounding it. On Tuesday, by the way, SPC still has a chance for maybe some isolated thunderstorms in parts of New England, mainly east of New York City. Actually, has eastern Long Island in it, and we did have a few pop-ups around, as we showed you before. Also, you can see the large area of general thunderstorms that's out to the west from the Ohio Valley through the lower lakes and back up through the Rockies. And as we move on to day 3, we're seeing, he's here. I got you, Joe. Okay. Mr. Rayo is now joining us. So apparently that technical issue, Mr. Reuben Fairchild, I want you to know, Joe, Mr. Reuben Fairchild was extremely furious. He has a great name to be a CEO of a company and an attitude to match. He was furious. I mean, furious that you weren't here. But I gently explained to him that this was not your doing. But now you're with us, and I hope everything went well tonight with your library talks that you did.
Yeah, everything went fine. I just don't understand what happened. And Mr. Reuben Fairchild, you say that we enjoy you, but you have so many technical issues. Right now, you're my biggest technical issue. watching these comments. These comments on the chat board. Oh dear.
Did you ever meet anybody? I mean, I don't think since he's been on this, part of this, and we love that you're here because it gives us a foil. But rarely have I even seen you say something even remotely positive. Lighten up. The sun does rise tomorrow, unless you're thinking that it's not going to. But the library
It's
talks went up.
amazing.
I mean, this was a Zoom issue. Zoom was having the problem, not Joe. Okay, so anyway,
Right.
you had your library talks went well, correct?
It went very good, and we'll have more coming up. Have another one tomorrow, another one on Wednesday, and I'm going to be a very busy person, Joe, from now right at least until the solar eclipse on June the 10th. So, but we're making the best efforts to kowtow to people like Mr. Reuben Fairchild instead of just throwing up our arms and saying we ain't doing this. We're doing our level best to schedule these shows around such things as library talks and whatever, so that
Our
all of you will
lives.
be
We're
able to.
scheduling these shows around our lives. Okay. When you're young,
Well,
when you're young, you eat, sleep, and think weather 24/7. I get that. We were there. Believe it
yes.
or not, Joe and I were young once. Okay. Now we're all sagging in the wrong places when you get to our age. But there is such a thing as life, and sometimes it gets in the way. So just bear that in mind. Okay, so I kind of already went through all the severe weather stuff, so you saw I did that. But
I was sitting back here watching and trying to. I was waving my arms and sending you stuff on Messenger
I,
and also
I
on the chat
yeah,
board.
you know what? I'm switching
But I
maps
said,
back and
but you know what I
forth.
said? I said, Chiappi is in the groove right now. He's in the zone. Once he's got started and he's into the weather, there's nothing that's going to stop him. So
Yes, I just saw Renata's message saying hubby is waiting. Okay, so one more map. I just want to do one more map really quick. It's relevant to what's going on with us, and that is WPC's 7-day rainfall forecast map. And the reason why it's important is because of what it doesn't show for the eastern part of the United States, but it does show just exactly what this strong upper ridge is doing. And what you're seeing in terms of precip is pretty much next to nothing. I mean, whatever's being generated here is being generated only due to covering for whatever scattered showers or thunderstorms that we may have to deal with for a short time. I think the first chance might be Thursday night, and then again maybe Friday night into Saturday, with upper troughs that are going to start trying to come down as the ridge starts to move to the west. But when you've got a big upper ridge here in the eastern part of the United States, like this is all sinking air. And the two things I noticed, Joe, is the fact that this upper high strengthens as this week as we go through the week. It only gets stronger, and it starts to move westward, which puts us eventually in a position that we're going to probably start to see systems come down from the north. But in the meantime, when you've got a northwest to north flow like this, the humidity is going to be dry. I looked at dew points even on Friday are still only going to be in the low and mid 50s.
right, and I heard you before mention that it's very unusual, even when we have these abnormal or anomalous spells of very warm or even hot weather. It's rather unusual when we get into the 65 or 70-degree dew point temperatures to go along with those high temperatures. That usually holds off until sometime later in June or July. When it gets as hot as it or as warm as it's going to be getting at this particular time of the year, you still have relatively comfortable dew point temperatures. So even though we may see temperatures in the mid or upper 80s Wednesday or Thursday, I don't think it's going to be as such that we're going to be talking about, muggy or sticky or oppressive in the way people feel out there. It may very well be that we could see dew points, let's say, go above 60, but we're not talking about those equatorial type days where it's like, 65 to 70 or even higher, the kind of days that you see down in the Gulf. So that's one positive aspect to this unusual surge of heat.
No, and again, when you have that, when the flow aloft is, you're basically on the northwest side of a big upper high, it really can't get humid. All that air is sinking, it's compressing, and one thing is, I think part of this equation too, in terms of temperatures, which is going to be fun to figure out, is the fact that if we do wind up with some sunshine for vast majority of the day, we're probably going to see the numbers higher than what's being indicated. And already, like the Weather Service for tomorrow, for example, on the digital forecast, they've pushed their numbers up to upper 70s and low 80s. You move up into New England. Whoops, I moved too fast. Now I lost the map. Oh, that wasn't smart, Joe. Oh, okay, hold on. It's coming back now. There we go. Uh, Up in New England, it's going to be mostly in the 70s. In Maine, it's going to be mostly low 70s and even 60s as you go further north. But the warmest air is pretty much over us for tomorrow. It's middle and upper 70s as you go south into Virginia and into North Carolina. Now, Wednesday, I think, is the day where, if conditions are right and we get the right kind of wind and enough sun, I think it's possible for somebody to make a run for. The maps are showing mostly middle 80s. I think we could wind up higher than that. I don't know. 90 might be possible, depending on what kind of a launching pad we have in the morning, and then it gets warm all the way up into northwestern New England. Temperatures in the mid to upper 80s, 70s in Maine, 80s down into the Carolinas, and again the humidity still pretty reasonable. And then we're going to do it again on Thursday. Same story. Temperatures up in the middle and upper 80s with maybe a few odd spots close to 90, and again subdued humidity.
Yes, indeed. And I think, Joe, the best chance out of the next 7 days of seeing any kind of significant precipitation here would probably be late Saturday or Saturday night with an upper trough. I don't know if that, how you feel about that. It seems, like kind of a diffuse type of pattern where you might have a shower or a renegade thunderstorm pop up anywhere, anytime, any place. But I think the best chance will probably be later Saturday or Saturday night.
I don't see any washouts. And by the way, just going back to WPC's rainfall forecast map, I just want to, Addison Green, our buddy and former colleague working in Houston right now, probably going to have his hands full with rainfall amounts on the order of 7 to 10 inches being forecast in parts of East Texas. And it looks like most of the heaviest rain is northwest of Houston, but Houston is in that zone of 5 to 7 inches. So we're talking some big rainfall amounts here. Also, the middle of the country, all the way up through the northern plains and back up through the northern Rockies, a lot of moisture here on the order of an inch, inch and a half. Some of what's showing up in Montana may wind up being in the form of some snow. And I'll bring the surface map up. I'm going to widen the surface map a little bit here so that we can take a look at what's going on out in that part of the world. Joe, I don't think nothing here says when eventually the showers do come, because eventually they will. You're dealing with anything that's going to create any kind of all-day washout. I think the first chance maybe of a shower or a thunderstorm there's a weak upper trough that comes through Thursday night that maybe triggers off a shower or storm, and then another one that comes over the top Friday night. And the GFS is a little aggressive here with some showers. I think this is kind of overdone for Saturday. I would put them in the forecast. I just don't know that I think it's going to be as widespread as this. It's got a nice looking front that's trying to get to the coast. But the real push doesn't come until Sunday night with a front dropping down from the north. And even that barely gets through here because the wind's back around to the southwest and west by Tuesday and Wednesday of next week. So I'm not overly concerned here with regards to the weekend, at least not yet.
Yeah, as we've been saying for so many days now or so many weeks, it seems like, you with trepidation, you go past 3 or 4 days in making a forecast because after that, long range, long term, things just somehow either fall apart or just don't quite fit the way you thought several days earlier. But we shall see. At least it's warm now. People have been pushing for and waiting for the warm weather to arrive, and it finally is here. It looks like it's going to be here for a while. 6 to 10 day outlook from the Climate Prediction Center, by the way, has us somewhere like 70 to 80% probability of above normal temperatures. So we're gonna be I think we might very well see for the next 7 days temperatures, at least for the urban area like New York City or Teterboro Airport or Newark. You might see temperatures, for 7 consecutive days at or above 80 degrees.
Yes, no doubt. And I just pulled up the upper air. We can see the players here pretty well. You've got off the map. There's a trough that's out well offshore, and of course this allows room for this ridge to start to build. I'm showing you the map for this evening. Here's the upper low sitting on the border of New Mexico and Arizona that is triggering off all the severe weather that we're seeing tonight in parts of West Texas. And of course, the Gulf has opened up, as we said, bringing that moisture into East Texas and into Western Louisiana with the potential for flash flooding. And that upper low takes a long time to move east because Mr. Ridge is building big time in the eastern part of the United States. And in fact, Joe, the heights get above 591 on the 500 millibar map here, 18,000 feet. Very deep upper low drops down the west coast, which you get the corresponding reaction of a big ridge centered over Kentucky and Tennessee. And then you have an upper low that's sitting out in the ocean east of North Carolina, northeast of Bermuda. So this is sort of a perfect setup where you've got everything's kind of locked in. It's blocky. This is a different sort of a block where you're seeing upper lows on both sides and a big ridge in the middle. And the eastern part of the United States is sitting in a sweet spot while the moisture flow just continues in places west of the Mississippi River. And now, of course, you've got this deep upper low going into the west. That's going to have its own issues going forward, which I'm not exactly sure how that's going to play out. But that upper ridge, by the way, migrates slowly westward. And this is where, when we get into later in the weekend, this is where that northerly flow, Joe, there's a kink here on Saturday, right here. I'm going to draw it from about Boston to New York City to just south of Pittsburgh. Looks like there's a little upper trough there that comes through late in the day on Saturday. And then as we move into Sunday, the northwest flow kind of strengthens a bit because the ridge is sitting in northern Mississippi. So that might open the door for another front to come on through. Yeah, trying to time this out is really just going to be, difficult. But these are minor forecast issues, really.
Now that upper low that you mentioned, that's going to be, I'd say about 600 or 700 miles east of the Mid-Atlantic coast by the weekend, which will be spinning round and round. Do you think that there's any chance that might acquire, warm core characteristics and might evolve into possibly a tropical cyclone or something that they may want to look at or be aware of?
I'm gonna, you know what? I think it's too early. If we were in late June, I would say maybe that they could do that. That thing actually does meander around all weekend long, all weekend long. It drops down from just off of Nova Scotia to northeast of Bermuda, and then it just sort of sits around and does a counterclockwise loop until eventually it finally opens up early next week and then gets kicked away to the northeast. The ridge in the east wants to be persistent. It's still there early next week. It does flatten out some. The GFS wants to have some kind of trough come down from a strengthening upper low in Labrador that swings around Thursday, May 27th, is what the model's indicating. And I'm just trying to give a early long range quick peek. I'm looking at this at least for the Memorial Day weekend. Yeah, you know what? Doesn't look too shabby. Not at this point. Something stronger dropping down. Who knows if that's even real? Coming down out of Canada into the Western Lakes along about Memorial Day that swings toward the East Coast. But that's a long ways away yet.
And you've even got, if you want to play with this, you've got on June the 2nd, you've got a closed upper low over New York State. Admittedly, it's not the great. I mean, it's a two contour closed low on the 2nd of June over central New York State. Again, if you want to believe that, that's on
Yeah.
the 18Z GFS. So
NHC on its
uh,
5-day tropical weather outlook. No tropical cyclones are expected, so they're not looking at anything there. Let's see if there's anything going on in the Eastern Pacific, because we had no tropical cyclones are expected during the next 5 days in the Eastern Pacific, and in the Central Pacific, no new tropical cyclones are expected during the next 5 days. In the Central Pacific, they got a long way to go before anything pops up over there. But NHC doing their outlooks early. They responding to the fact that we've had five named storms. I think 5 out of the last 6 years we've had a storm in the month of May. By the way, along those lines, they did raise, interestingly enough, so the 30-year means were redone. So the old uh, tropical cyclone. Now, just when you and I back in the 70s, the numbers were 10 tropical cyclones. 6 of them were going to become hurricanes. I don't know that they ever addressed the number of majors that would be there. But when we had the revision of the means from 1980 to 2010, that number went up to 12 tropical cyclones, uh, 6 hurricanes, and 3 majors. The new means now for the Atlantic Basin: 14 tropical cyclones, 7 hurricanes, but still only 3 majors. So the number of
so
storms
what are you
is
saying? So
the
what are you saying? In the last 30 years, we're not in the major leagues.
right. No, the average number of storms has gone up uh, in the last 30 or 40 years. The number of hurricanes has only gone up from 6 to 7, and the number of majors in the last 2 periods that they looked at remains at 3. I would just bring up what you and I have talked about before, about the fact that the advent of the beautiful GOES satellite that we have, and the fact that they're finding these systems that are tropical systems that may have fallen under the radar before. So it's hard to really come to any sort of, you can look at the number and say, oh, we used to go went from 10 to 14, the averages are going up. Yeah, well, maybe, but also the fact that maybe that 10 number is suspect, because of the fact that they just didn't have the technology to be able to um, find a lot of tropical systems slipped under the radar. And you and I saw how we had a couple of storms. We've seen several storms in the last couple of years that I think would never have been made tropical systems in the old days.
Well, it's like almost like in astronomy. You talk about the technology. I mean, if you had asked an astronomer when he thought perhaps the Big Bang took place, he might have said 50 or 60 years ago, he might have said that the known universe is like 12 billion years old. And now it's more like 14.3 billion, only because we now have the Hubble Space Telescope showing us things and seeing stars that were not visible or evident to us prior to the Hubble going up. And now we're going to have a brand new space telescope, the James Webb Telescope, in a few years. It may even see further out into space. So the more you improve the technology, then the more the rules are going to change, so to speak. And you're right, with the GOES 16, we're seeing and calculating and categorizing storms that I don't think we would have categorized as tropical systems 30, 40, 50 years ago. I mean, when was the last time before, let's say, 2000, that we actually had a tropical cyclone off the coast of Portugal?
No, I
I mean,
know.
it's
I
ridiculous.
know.
It's ridiculous.
Mr. Ruben Fairchild asked, did the revised climate reports affect Climatology, Brookhaven Lab being snowfall totals? I don't believe that Brookhaven Labs is part of that whole, whatever group of the cities that they use that they update for. But I will tell you, if you go and do the math, you'll find that the average went from probably about 30, just under 32 inches to, I believe, as I kind of did it really quick off the top of my head, to about 40 or 41. So the snow averages did rise at basically all the major cities in the Northeast and in the northern Mid-Atlantic states saw their annual snowfall normals go up in this latest update of the climatological normals. So that's kind of interesting that you're seeing this global rise in temperature, and at the same time you're seeing the average snowfall going up because warmer air holds more moisture. You could certainly use that logic and apply it here. But there could also be some other factors. The chairman hitting super chat tonight. Thank you, Scott, for doing that. This is his last one more job, one more night of the COVID hospital job, and you done great. You done good, and you saved lives. You really did. Indirectly, you saved lives. Maybe directly, you saved lives, and that's a wonderful thing. And thank you for that.
Excellent.
Yes.
I should also point out to Scott. I should say to Scott also, he may have been disappointed because we made the show short yesterday, and Renato was scheduled to do a cooking Jeopardy yesterday morning, but never got around to it. So maybe we'll do it on this coming Sunday.
Yes.
Unless you happen to be on the road again.
No. No, I'm going to be on the road Thursday and Friday. I'm going to take my time. Okay. I'm not going to be in a rush. By the way, I just want to mention my high school friend, John Avanzato, who is a medical doctor in upstate New York, and he started writing mystery novels, and he's written a number of successful mystery novels. He has a character that is a doctor and solves crimes. Well, his new book, Joe, is called Under the Weather, and I am a character in his latest novel.
Well, Joe, you've always been a character.
No, I've always been a character. I get that, but I'm just going to say that the book is coming out this week, and I am very important. I'm just going to say that I am a very important character in this book. I helped John out with one of his other books. He needed some weather questions, so he wrote this book with me in mind. So when it comes out this week, I'll put the Amazon link if you guys want to buy it and read it or download it. Go right ahead. And it's the names have been changed to protect the innocent. But you'll recognize me.
I think that Chuck Scarborough, the longtime anchor at Channel 4, wrote a book about the possibility of an earthquake, a major earthquake hitting the New York City metropolitan area.
Mm-hmm.
And I think in part of that book, of course it's a fictional book, but in part of the book he actually mentions Craig Allen.
How cool is that?
CBS News Radio 88. Yeah.
I just put I just put the book on the screen.
Under the Weather.
Yes, there it is. By John Avanzato. So hopefully it will be made into an Oscar-winning movie. We can only hope.
Well, the closest thing that I know to that, or I have in fact, I worked for the guy, Todd Gross, who later moved up to Massachusetts, to Boston. Got a mention, more than just a mention. He actually got a part in, not him, but an actor played him or portrayed him in the movie The Perfect Storm.
Oh, how cool is that?
They don't mention, the interesting thing is they don't mention his name. It's not like somebody, I mean, the guy, the enthusiastic and crazy TV weather guy that you see in Perfect Storm is Todd Gross. And like I said, I worked for Todd. He started a weather company back in the late 70s here in the tri-state area. But while they don't mention specifically his name, if you stay around long enough at the end to look at the, as they're rolling the cast back, I forget the name of the actor. You see, here's the actor's name, ... Todd Gross. or should I say Todd Gross dot dot dot, and then the name of the actor. And in that movie, in the Weather Center, the Boston Weather Center, the TV Weather Center, on the shelf is a picture of a teenager or a young child or whatever like that. That's Todd's actual son,
Oh, really?
who, by the way, his name. Get this, Joe. He named his son Brad Sky. How do you like that? Now, there's a weather name if there ever was one.
Yep.
So at least the son got a cameo in the movie. And
That,
maybe they'll make this into a movie and you'll get a cameo too.
oh, I can't possibly work before 10 in the morning. I must be done before 4:30 at night. I want my own trailer.
um, yes, indeed.
Oh,
Uh
good
oh,
Lord.
uh
What?
oh. Mr. Fairchild is now taking aim at Craig Allen.
Yeah, no. Leave it. Let it go. Just let it go. Let
God.
it go. He's got to worry about the fact
Oh,
that the character, if I'm in that book, that I'm not a serial killer. Who knows?
well, the question is there
I may
anybody?
very well be.
Is there is there anybody this guy likes?
I
I
don't
mean,
know. He hasn't revealed that yet. He must like us because he watches the show. He's here every
Mr.
night.
Mr. Mr. Fairchild, just let me point out that you're picking on somebody who has had the local record for being on the air in the New York area longer than anybody else. He's been on for like 40 plus years, and he lives out on Long Island, and he most definitely knows Long Island weather and Long Island climatology, and that's as far as I'm going to say or go with that. So, anyway, is it time to go?
Well,
Because I noticed now
it's
I've been
9:13.
talking now. No, I've been talking nonstop from going back with the library talk since 7 o'clock. So
So I think maybe we should you should certainly drink water, which is what you're doing. So
yes, I am.
maybe it is time to wrap it up. So I think maybe we'll do that. I I have a Tallulah Bankhead quote that I stumbled on today that I found so funny. So I just wanted to share it for those of you who are young. You're not going to know, so Google her, Tallulah Bankhead. But she was a big Broadway star in the 1920s and 30s, and she was very much larger than life. I mean, this woman just she lived a very wild life, openly in the
She had
press.
a show. She had a radio show on in the NBC network in the early 50s called The Big Show. And that show, television was just getting started, and it couldn't even compete with The Big Show with Tallulah
Mm-hmm.
Bankhead. It was a great thing to listen to, and she was an amazing personality.
These are two quotes that I stumbled on today that I just found hilarious. The first one was this was back probably in the late 1920s, when early 1930s, when she met Joan Crawford. I'm sorry, Joan Crawford, and Joe, she said to Joan Crawford, "Darling," and she was very big. She would call everybody darling. Okay, so
Right.
She said to Joan Crawford, darling, you're divine. I just had an affair with your husband. You're next." Now,
Yeah.
this one I thought was really funny. So I think it was around 1960. She did a lot of she did a lot of plays. She was well known for playing Regina Giddens in The Little Foxes, which if you haven't seen The Little Foxes, and Betty Davis was in the movie, um, and even Betty Davis said that Tallulah Bankhead should have played it because Tallulah played it on Broadway, and the performance was out of this world. Anyhow, um, she playing that part in a play in 1961 on the road in Alabama, and her press agent said, in a small town, and her press agent said, it might be a good idea if tomorrow you show up at mass at Holy Cross Church at the High Mass, okay, which she did. She went to the High Mass, and now if you've ever been to a Catholic High Mass, it's which I don't even know.
Music and
Yeah,
singing and
but it's very, and this is 1960, so it's in Latin, and the priest
Latin.
comes in with altar boys, and the priest comes in, and he's got his cassock on, and goes all the way down, down to his shoes, and Joe, they have. I wish I remember what they called it, but they have the it looks like a lantern on a chain that they light for incense. So he's coming up the aisle, and he's waving the thing back and forth with the incense, and the priest passes by where Tallulah Bankhead sitting, and she whispers to the priest. She says, "Darling, I love your dress, but your purse is on fire." I thought that I read that today, and I fell off my chair. That is just because that's no one could deliver a line like she could, and there's a whole history of quotes um, that she like along those lines, and only she could get away with it because of the character that she was. Anyway, I just wanted to bring that up.
I once thought that Rosalind Russell, when she was on the Big Show, and when you were on the Big Show, you had to introduce yourself at the top of the show, and I thought she was making an attempt to, you know, knock down Tallulah Bankhead or take her down one peg. She said, and you had to you announced your name. You said, Rosalind. I went to Barnard College and I studied metaphysics and I studied acting and I've been on radio and on television and in movies or whatever. And now tonight I'm on the Big Show. Then she paused and said, "Well, my luck had to change sometime." And everybody started laughing. And then, but Tallulah came right back and said, "Well, what do you expect from a woman who's been educated in a barnyard?"
Well, Tallulah said, "I know Shakespeare, I studied the Bible, and I shoot dice. That's what I would call a liberal education." She also
Oh
she
boy.
also told the lover of her. She says, I will be over at 5 o'clock to make love. If I'm late, start without me."
Uh,
Oh well, we had a few good laughs here. Okay, you know what? Let's say goodnight. I wanted to leave you with at least a smile after a hard day's work. And Joe and I will be back tomorrow night at 8:30 Eastern Time. So don't forget the time change. We'll be here on Wednesday at 8:30 Eastern Time, and then Mr. Ruben Fairchild, Joe and I are going to be off Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. I know that you'll probably write us up, but we'll take that risk. Okay. Um, have a great night, everybody. Good night.
nighty night.